You're good, Daniel? Hello, everybody. My name is Bernadette Smith, and I am CEO of Equality Institute. And I do not know why there's this weird white bar right there, but I apologize. We're going to get rid of it for next time. But welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, which is my weekly LinkedIn live show in which we talk about good vibes in DEI, good stuff that's working in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And today I am joined by my special guest, Daniel Downer. Daniel,
Hi.
would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Downer. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am one of the associate facilitators at the Equality Institute. So glad to be spending this time with each and every one of you on LinkedIn as well as YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is right. And I apologize again that we don't have that this weird bar is there and that you don't see our name. So
Yeah.
new technology, we will work it out for next time. All right. So every Monday, I come on LinkedIn Live and YouTube to talk about what's working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, what's going right, the stories that inspire me. Sometimes the stories relate to corporate social responsibility, but I like to focus on what's going right rather than what's going wrong. There's a lot of negativity out there, but I'd rather lead from a place of inspiration rather than a place of fear. So I share these stories every Saturday morning in a newsletter called 5 Things, and then on Mondays we talk about this stuff. So if you don't already get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. All right, so let's get to it, Daniel.
Yeah.
First of all, today is the last day of Black History Month. How have you celebrated Black History Month, if you don't mind me asking?
Ooh.
If
Um,
you celebrated at all, I mean, just
you
by being
know,
your authentic self, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I was gonna say that I feel like I celebrate being Black every day. As someone who identifies as Black, I think I celebrate my my culture and all that that encompasses every single day. This month, this Black History Month, I felt like there was so much that was going on within the month that we could celebrate, but also like when we think of I identify as a Black and queer person, and I live in Florida. So, in full transparency, there was so much stuff that was so disrespectful happening. But I think I was having a discussion, not to take up all the time, I was having a discussion with some friends who we were talking about the legislation around the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida that is trying to censor and erase LGBTQ plus individuals from classrooms and people, and they were kind of talking about like how they were feeling these feelings of fear and anxiety. And I was like, that's kind of the fear that I have as a Black person every single day. That kind of that fear that you're sitting in. And so this Black History Month, while there has been all of that going on, I've celebrated it by being resilient, by prioritizing myself, my well-being, my self-care, and the things that are closest and near and dear to me.
I love that answer. I mean, you would think we should do that all year round, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's really a great explanation. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yes.
Well, if you don't already get the newsletter, I did shout out 5 people that I really care about in this week's newsletter. 5 people who speak, write. Some of them have books, and they're consultants. They are people that I respect that you can hire for. Some do diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Some do work on leadership, sales. They have really great backgrounds. So I'm just going to quickly shout out a few folks that I care about. Alana Hill, Derek Johnson II, Michelle Silverthorne, Charlene Wheelis, and Latanya Wilkins. So the links to their websites are on the equalityinstitute.com blog and in the newsletter. So please check out those awesome people. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the good vibes.
Yes.
Okay, so company called Linktree which has core benefits. But what they decided to do was offer flexibility in the non-core benefits. And one of the ways they do that is by providing employees with $6,000 to use on activities that fall into the pillars of wellness, lifestyle, or impact. So, for example, one employee may use the money towards a yoga retreat, a second may take a vacation, and the third might use it towards charitable donations. So I love that they're modeling flexibility. It seems pretty simple to do,
Yeah.
and it offers employees the way to some freedom.
Yeah, I love this idea of kind of prioritizing the well-being of employees and how companies and corporations are looking at innovative ways outside of just the normal fringe benefits. I think it's really important. I think it's necessary work, and I'm so glad that Linktree is doing that. And then I also think it's very powerful when you have your employer that is saying, okay, here's an X amount of money for you to do whatever you want to do. I think that strengthens trust.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also strengthens creating a culture of belonging, where employees feel valued outside of just, okay, I'm helping the company or the corporation generate income and revenue. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing this happen with other companies and other corporations. And I've already started to see this happen on this is another topic for another time, but among boards.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a board of directors that I sit on, and this entity has been adopting a similar practice of providing board members with what is kind of considered like a self-care or a health and wellness stipend, so that we're allowed to center ourselves and heal and do all the things that we need to do. So kudos to Linktree. Looking forward to seeing it happening more throughout the business sector.
Yeah, I agree. It sort of goes to the platinum rule, which is different from the golden rule, right? So the
Mhm.
platinum rule says treat others how they want to be treated,
Yep.
whereas the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. But, not everyone wants to be treated the same way I want to be treated, right? So
Mhm.
by
Mhm.
following the platinum rule, it does give people again, sort of that freedom, flexibility, and letting them better express themselves.
Yeah.
All right. Next story is coming from Health Data Research UK, which is another organization I haven't seen too many of these stories, but it's another organization that has actually ditched their resumes. So hiring managers are no longer looking at resumes when they're hiring candidates. And this is something they started doing with an internship program, and they have now expanded it into all of their full-time positions. So when we don't look at resumes, we remove the bias that shows up that unconsciously when we do look at resumes. So it is a simpler way to increase diversity.
Yeah, I love this. I was talking to a group of nonprofit organizations that are part of a leadership institute that I'm advising, and we were really talking about how discrimination and racism and white supremacy shows up in the hiring process with resumes, right? Because a lot of times there's this feeling of whoever's the strongest. Is what's going to the talent that's the strongest is what's going to rise to the top, right? And not necessarily understanding those, like you said, the implicit bias and those nuances that really impact elevating non-Black and Brown applicants while keeping Black and Brown applicants down at the bottom. So I love this transition where individuals are moving from just like looking at resumes. I think here in the US, they're starting to do where it's more based on individual skill sets, which I think is really, really powerful. And we're starting to see companies and corporations be really, really happy with the new talent that they are being able to bring in under when they have transitioned from just looking solely at the resume to the skill set. I think of a foundation in particular that they transitioned and were able to hire their first Black individual for their foundation on a mid-level executive level, and how by doing that has really shaped and transformed that foundation to truly look at its diversity, its equity, and its inclusion practices. And then that opened up the door for them to have even more diverse talent and create more equitable and inclusive policies and procedures, including their pay. So I look forward to seeing this be something that is adopted more and more within human resource practices.
Yeah, I completely agree, because when we do have more diversity within the talent, within the staff, then we are going, if those people feel psychologically safe, I should say, to do their best work and to share their big ideas, then we are going to see more creativity and more equity in some of the policies that come out of that
Yeah,
organization.
and it creates, and like you said, Bernadette, it creates a pipeline, right? So thinking
Mhm.
about how, you know, companies and corporations may be putting out these positions, but because there's that disconnect, right? Because there may not be that diversity or that equity or that inclusion where applicants see themselves within the company, they might not feel, the agency, the autonomy to apply. So I think when we transition, like you said, from just a resume to a skill set, we then begin to open up the doors of our businesses, our companies, and our corporations to so much rich, diverse talent that can really transform the work that is being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we do look at resumes, we have the bias of making assumptions based on someone's perceived gender, based on
Yep.
their perceived race, the
Yep.
college that they went to, and all
Yep.
of that stuff. So ditching the resumes is an awesome thing that all of you listening, watching should do within your organizations if you don't already. And if you want to increase diversity, it's just one thing you can do.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Good news from Team USA and the U.S. women's national soccer team, which, after a years long battle, has settled with the U.S. Soccer Federation, and the women are now being paid the same as the men. They had a settlement because there were lots of years in which they weren't being paid the same as men, even though they were a much better team. So it's really great news when women are paid the same as men. There's an awesome documentary on HBO about that battle. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah. This is long overdue. Long,
Mhm.
long, long overdue. And I think, when we talk about equity, we cannot forget pay equity, and the
Mhm.
pay disparities that are not only happening based on race and ethnicity, but also based on gender, right? And so I'm really glad to see that this is a one move in the right direction to ensuring that there is equitable pay to individuals all over, no matter how they identify gender wise.
Exactly. And, the U.S. women's national soccer team is really fun to watch. So
Mhm.
I'm thrilled for them and what it can mean for other women athletes and women in general,
Yeah.
because, sometimes big stories like that can cause a ripple effect of equity in other areas.
Yes.
All right. Next up comes from the wedding industry, which, by the way, did you know I used to be a wedding planner, Daniel?
I
This
did not know that you used to be a wedding planner, but that is really exciting because one of my guilty pleasures a friend turned me on to is 90 Day Fiance.
I have
Oh,
I'm retired, so I haven't watched any of those shows in a very long time.
it sucks you in and then you just can't break away. But yeah, I saw the what you shared within the 5 things around a wedding planner. So I'm really excited to dive into this.
Yeah, so Brides Magazine, which is a huge Condé Nast publication, very popular magazine, in 2020 they set a pledge to have at least 20% of their real wedding features be Black couples, and 50% of those real wedding features be diverse couples more generally. So typically, as you have, in the past, flipped through a Brides Magazine or any other wedding magazine for the most part, and on blogs, you're seeing a lot of the real wedding features be very, very,
Yeah.
very pretty, perfectly sized, straight, cisgender, white people. That's sort of been the
Yep.
history of the wedding industry, and certainly in terms of who's showing up in media. Well, Brides Magazine has actually met its goal. Last year,
Mm.
27% of the real weddings were Black couples, and 54% were diverse in general. And I think that really speaks volumes to where things are going.
Yeah. I love this. I think visibility of like increased visibility and diverse representation is really important. And so yeah, I love the direction that this is going. I'm hoping that this is something that can be adopted in other ways. And we're seeing that in other industries, that
Mhm.
increased visibility and representation. I think I was looking at a Target commercial over the weekend, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is cool." And so, yeah, I think that um, that that's a step in the right direction, and really look forward to seeing again other sectors increase their visibility and their representation of diverse populations.
Yeah, I mean, and they set a goal and they won. They kept it, and hopefully
And
they'll.
that's the important, and that's the importance of setting those, setting those goals or those indexes, is because it really is a way to hold yourself accountable. And I think we talked about this in a five things in 15 minutes a few months back, around the difference between performative solidarity and what actual intentional solidarity looks like. And so I think that this is a great way of seeing that action in practice, by creating a goal, holding yourself accountable. And even if you don't meet, whatever that goal is, I also think part of it is looking at, okay, why didn't we get there, right? And acknowledging that and working on being able to do it next time.
Everything is an experiment. You
Yeah.
gotta you
Yeah.
gotta set the goal, just along the way. It's an imperfect practice, but
Yeah.
the things that we talk about here every week are things that anyone can adapt, any organization can look and adapt, and the combination of things create a series of great best practices that really can increase DEI.
Mhm.
Okay, last story of the week is that the new iPhone update will include a pregnant man emoji,
Yes.
because not just women can be pregnant.
Mhm.
Trans men can also be pregnant. So this gives them greater visibility, greater representation as well.
Yeah, I think once again, the times are changing, and so kudos to Apple for including individuals of trans identity and trans experience in their emojis. I know that this has kind of been has lit the internet on fire, with individuals that have varying opinions about it. But I think, once again, we talk about visibility and representation, and I think it's really important for individuals within the trans community to see themselves represented throughout all. We know that this is a community historically that has been invisible in so many different ways. And so, yeah, I love seeing that emoji. My friends and I, we've had some discussion about it. Actually, have a colleague of mine who identifies as a trans man, and his partner, they're expecting. So it was really great to get the text from him with the emoji and be like, "Oh, this is amazing news." So kudos to
Yes.
Apple. Like I said, this is a step in the right direction. I know that a few years back they had implemented skin tone into emojis to be more representative of diverse races and ethnicities. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they'll continue to do in the future to be more inclusive in their representation of their emojis.
Exactly. And there's even an emoji of someone with short hair that is gender ambiguous.
Yeah.
I think that, and sometimes I use that emoji. Not that I feel gender ambiguous, but I don't have long hair, and so yeah,
And does Apple have the emoji with like the two dads or the two
yeah,
moms? I thought so as well. I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure they have that too. So yeah.
yeah. Good
They're
stuff.
on it. Good
They
stuff.
are. They are. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today, Daniel, to talk about good vibes and DEI. And thank you to everyone who is watching. Sorry we're late. Sorry that you don't see our name. So we are still getting used to the new tech.
Yeah.
But we are thrilled to have you here today. And Daniel, always a pleasure.
Always a
And
pleasure.
those of you who are looking for workshops, Daniel is one of our facilitators here at Equality Institute, and he will take great care of you. He
Yes.
has a session coming up later this week with one of our
Yes.
clients. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone. If you don't already get 5 Things, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Take care.